All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm back with Bucky.
Hello.
And Joe.
Hi there.
And today we're going to be trying to look at some of the things that people have been forgetting to notice, especially when it comes to Star Wars: The Force Awakens. As you all know, the movie came out back in December of 2015, did gangbusters, but people have been focusing on two main aspects ever since that time. They've been wondering who was Emperor Snoke and who were Rey's parents. Actually, now that I say that out loud, side by side like that, I wonder if Emperor Snoke was Rey's parent. Just saying, just throwing that out there all of a sudden. But anyway, we are here today to look at some other questions, mainly the top 5 questions no one is asking about The Force Awakens. There's a lot going on in this movie, more so than just her origin and Snoke's identity. For example, let's get this countdown started. And just so that you know, because the movie's been out since, 2 months now, yeah. 2.5 months actually. Spoilers are ahead. We're not going to be holding anything back when it comes to details, all right? So, number 5. We're going to start off with Chewbacca's mental state. Now, Chewbacca and Han and Solo go together like peanut butter and jelly, Or
Rocket and Groot.
Or bologna and whipped cream.
Bologna and whipped cream.
Oh, yum! That sounds great.
Okay. But anyway, they actually had, even before A New Hope, they had quite a history. And I'll let Joe explain their history.
Pretty much after Jedi. Not after Jedi, I'm sorry. After like episode 3.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yes, when Emperor took over, the Empire went to Kashyyyk or Kashyyyk, depending on your point of view.
Kashyyyk.
And they basically used the Wookiees for slave labor. Han
Right.
Solo was, at that point, he didn't know the Empire for being the big, enemy that they were, was actually a lieutenant. Or no, I think he was a captain, actually. That's
Right.
That's why they call him Captain Solo.
I always find that fascinating that, if things had happened differently, Han Solo could have been on the Death Star when it blew up or something like that.
Yeah. But his superior was mistreating one of the Wookiees, which happened to be Chewbacca, like overly abusing him, and Han Solo took exception to that. Because he stopped his superior, he was kicked out of the Navy, however he saved the Wookiee, so the Wookiee pledged the life debt to him. That's why Han and Chewbacca are always kind of together. And Chewbacca ended up expanding that life debt to cover Han's wife Leia and her brother Luke.
Well, 2 things about that. First off, one thing you did tell me at first, Han did not want Chewie around when he was kicked out of the military.
Right. He just I saved you, but you don't owe me anything. But then he started to realize that maybe having like a 2-meter tall Wookiee at my side when we're in some of these seedier places might not be such a bad idea.
Which brings us to the $1 million question. When you think about it, Joe mentioned that Chewbacca would have extended the life debt to Luke and Leia and his offspring.
Yes.
So guess who else gets the life debt?
That would be Kylo.
Kylo Ren would also have Chewbacca's life. Now, I'm sure Chewbacca has the right to cancel those life debts if he...
Well, the only one he really has to stick with, I believe, is Han.
Right. But that said, you have that question of what is Chewbacca going to be like in this next movie? Is he going to be filled with rage, or is he going to be really depressed?
Technically, that's another question, though, going back to the life debt. Chewbacca's life debt would have been to Ben Solo, not Kylo Ren.
Okay.
Even though they are the same physical person, it's a different... It's kind of like when he became Vader, Anakin Skywalker ceased to exist.
Right.
Same thing.
Okay. So, and that's going to bring up another interesting question that's going to come up real soon. But let's move on to number 4. How bad are Finn's injuries really? I think...
Finn is with 2 N's.
Yeah, I was...
autocorrect! Darn you, autocorrect!
I was like, something wrong here.
I did spell it right, I swear. Okay. You would think we would go back and, fix that in post, but we won't. Moving right along. Finn, as we know, got a really serious back injury. Okay?
Yeah, you can see there the pain on
No,
his
this is in the middle of the movie. I did try to look it up. I was hoping to at least find one where Ray was saying goodbye to Finn, something where he was at least lying out, because whatever happened to him during that fight, A, it didn't kill him, which is a good thing, but B, he was just kind of lying there and out of it. He was comatose, technically. And the doctors were trying to say we got to him just in time. But just in time for what exactly? Are we expecting Finn to have some bionic, help me out with this pronunciation.
The cybernetic arms.
A cybernetic back.
Like spine.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll make him like Dr. Octopus.
Give him extra arms or give him, more. Do you think he'll be stronger, or do you think in some ways he'll be weaker?
Or will he have any mental problems sustained from his injuries?
It could be possible. Bucky, what do you think?
I'm still thinking of like other questions. It's like, the whole how injured is Finn thing. To me, it's not a major issue.
Well,
we'll find out.
It's going to play a major part tomorrow. I mean, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about will play a major part about what's coming up in episode 8.
See, I don't think this question is really that important. I mean, basically he's going to be injured, but everyone's been injured in that.
Well, we saw what happened with Luke's hand.
Right.
So the question is, are they going to do the same thing for Finn, or will Finn be in a wheelchair type of deal,
or will he be in like more of a Darth Vader armor for his injuries, like an exosuit?
Okay, there is, except for Professor X, there has never been a handicapped main character in a movie. With the exception of Professor X.
You know what? We're not going to go there because I'm trying to think. I want to say there's another person who was in a wheelchair the whole time.
But you can't think of one, can you?
Not a movie, but there was a television show. I think it was called Luther, where the guy was in a wheelchair.
But I was just saying, as far as mainstream movies go, we're not going to see a main character in a wheelchair.
Well, we've never seen one in Star Wars anyway, have we?
In a wheelchair?
In a wheelchair, yeah.
Well, not a main character. I mean, Anakin's brother-in-law or whatever his stepfather, I guess it was.
He was in a wheelchair?
Well, it was in a hover chair or something.
Hover chair, right? They have hover chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll understand that I'm not really focused on this question. To me, it's
well. Then let's move on to number 3. Do we really think Luke is going to train Rey? I mean, now this is an interesting point. When Bucky first heard this question, he didn't think Rey went there for training.
I never got that impression.
You didn't get that impression, huh?
Besides, according to what Yoda said in, I think, episode 2? Okay. Or no, episode 1.
Episode 1?
That Anakin was too old to train.
Okay, come on, guys. Think about how old Luke was when he got his training from Yoda.
Yeah, that was
So different Jedi Masters, different rules. You never know.
Yoda was from the actual legitimate
but still,
Jedi Order.
The scene you're looking at the end of Force Awakens, at no point did the subject of whether Rey was even going to be trained. She doesn't even know she's a Jedi.
Well, she pretty much figured that out.
Yeah, I think she has that idea when she curved the lightsaber away from Kylo Ren.
And when she used the mind meld on that other guy.
I think she was just kind of Jedi mind trick, not mind meld. But I think
Spock mind meld.
I think she was just experimenting with what she could do. As the movie went on, she realized that she could do stuff.
Yeah,
normally, remember, I still don't think she believes she's a Jedi. She knows she's connected to Luke Skywalker in some way.
Ooh, I wouldn't go that far. I would understand that Rey knows that she has a Force connection.
Well, remember, she picked up Luke's lightsaber.
Well, she didn't really... Well, yeah, she found it.
And then she got all those...
visions.
Yeah, exactly. So that means something. Yeah.
But it also comes from Luke's perspective. Luke, coming from a great failure where one of his students, his own nephew no less, starts killing all of his students and everything and destroying the school he had spent so long to build. I mean, the guy is not going to be too anxious to start a new school or to start a new training, but he might have to. He might not have a choice.
Going back to your first thing, Chewbacca's mental state. Now, what about Luke's mental state? Because it was his student who killed Han Solo, one of his closest friends.
And it was his own nephew that did it, too.
So I kind of wonder what Luke's role in the new movie is going to be.
The thing is, with the next Star Wars, here's my opinion. and you guys can tell me what you think is going to happen. Time is going to pass. It's going to be several years after the events of Force Awakens. And Episode 8, we would have already gone through that whole awkward phase of Luke saying, I'm not going to train you. Rey say, no, train me. And eventually they'll become student teacher, and she'll be on the path of being a Jedi, but she won't be a Jedi. Episode 7, 8, and 9, and I'm hoping 8 and 9 don't do this, but so far, Episode 7, we all know Episode 7 was a clone of Episode 4, They took a lot of the same elements, sometimes some of the same events, and just transported them into the movie. So if you take that, Rey starts her journey on the Force with Episode 7. She learns more about the Force in Episode 8, and she becomes a Jedi Knight by the end of Episode 9. That's my theory.
So according to your theory,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that in Episode 8, we're going to get a Snoke saying, I am your father scene.
I hope not! I will say one thing. If the next Episode 8 starts on a snow planet, I'm going to be groaning most of the movie. So we'll probably have to not
But then
see it
again,
together.
the question is not necessarily who wrote the story first, but who wrote it best.
Ooh,
Because, if you're claiming that this is just a copy of Episode 4...
well,
I actually like this movie better than Episode 4.
but we all know that Episode 7 was not a direct copy, but
There were elements.
exactly. But I'm saying Episode 8 better not be like Episode 7 here. You know what I'm saying? Episode 8 should not be a clone like Episode 7 was to Episode 4. I'm not making sense to myself. But you know what I'm trying to say.
But if Episode 8 is a clone, who's Luke going to send Rey to? All his masters are dead. Obi-Wan at least sent Luke to Yoda.
Right. Well, and, he's on like a forest/water planet,
Also, Joe, didn't you say that you also never got the impression that she went there to train?
Yeah, I just went I went there as she went there for, here's your lightsaber, we need you back.
Right. I never got the training vibe. I just got...
Interesting.
Everybody's looking for you. We need you.
Right.
I got the training vibe because you know what happened. If you ever see the movie Kill Bill, or even Kung Fu Panda, there's this long set of stairs. And one of the last things that I kind of liked, kind of didn't like about Force Awakens was you saw Rey climbing the stairs to meet up with her master at the top.
That scene did go on 10 minutes too long. Imagine if you had to deliver a pizza to that place, man.
It'd be cold by the time. Well,
it'd be free.
But yeah, but it's pizza. It'd still be good. You
also they couldn't have parked the Millennium Falcon.
That's what I was just about to ask.
Way at the top instead of all the way down at the bottom.
Rey comes out of the Millennium Falcon. Chewbacca, couldn't we have moved a little bit closer? Here's what I don't understand, though, also about that scene. The whole movie was about trying to find Luke. Luke was off looking for another, the original Jedi Temple. So why was Luke still at the same place? Is this where the original Jedi Temple was?
Maybe.
I don't know. I did read somewhere that something we didn't notice is that when we first see Luke Skywalker, in that scene, he's at the base of a resting place, like someone's tombstone type of thing.
Okay.
There's a grave marker or something.
Interesting.
Like that.
I did not catch that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, some people were speculating that it may be Mara or something like that.
Yeah, I hope it's Mara Jade.
And so, there's all these little plants that are in the movie that a lot of people never thought of. And it's when I read that, I'm thinking, I noticed that there was something beside him. I didn't know what it was, though.
Right. I personally did not notice that. I mean, it has been a while. I've only seen it once, unfortunately. I've been wanting to see it twice ever since. But, so I'll go see it too. This will be giving me something to look for. And speaking of looking for, let's go to number 2, Kylo Ren's fate. Now, a lot of what we've been talking about up until this moment has to deal with this one question. What's going to really happen to him? Now, obviously, in a situation like this, there's only 2 things that can happen. He dies, he goes on. So he either dies a bad guy or he comes back to the good side again and maybe gets to live on, But could he really continue to live on after what he's done and everything?
I don't really think there's ever a real, no going back, especially in movies.
Because usually it's like with Darth Vader. He turned to the good and then he kills himself with his Emperor.
Yeah, and he, when he went to the bad side, now granted this was over the span of a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And over the span of 30 years, I mean, he killed children for crying out loud, you know, in the Jedi Temple, but he was still able to be redeemed at the end.
Right. As for Kylo Ren, I have to admit, killing him off would be just too easy of a solution, and I do believe that they would be working towards more of a redemptive ending towards him. You know, I'm going to come out and say this, even though this is probably going to be the craziest thing you've ever heard me say in these podcasts. Could Kylo Ren and Rey actually have a love story here?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
If anything, I think Rey and Finn have something of an attraction to each other.
I just want more Poe.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of different outfits.
He's my favorite character.
Well, he wasn't in there enough, but I got to admit, he knew how to introduce the story right.
For the first few scenes we see him in, when he's at the camp, when he's I don't know, the first half of the movie, he just didn't work for me.
Oh, I really liked him.
However,
when he was a fighter pilot.
With him later in the movie, and spoiler warning, he didn't die when you think he does. But later on in the movie, when you come across him again, for some reason at that point, his
demeanor,
acting range got better.
Okay.
I mean, when we first see him, when Kylo Ren was bending down to talk to him, it's like, who talks first? Do you talk first? Do I talk first? That just seemed cheesy to me.
Well, it was supposed to be. You know?
But it didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't seem right for a Star Wars movie.
In some ways, for a fighter pilot, for the guy who's standing up to the big guy, trying to say, I'm not afraid of you type of thing. Also, remember, this is reminiscent of Episode 4 when Darth Vader encountered the ship captain. Back then, though, Vader had him by the throat. Didn't force choke him. Just decided to, use his own death grip on him. And hold them up there. But yeah, what do you think, Joe, about Kylo Ren's future?
That's tough. I mean, hopefully they keep growing the character a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do want to see where they go with him. I love the helmet.
Right. Love the helmet.
Yeah, I didn't like him so much when the cloak was up, but when that cloak was down, he terrified me. To
tell you the truth, in my opinion, I felt it was a little early for them to take off the helmet.
Yeah, me too.
In Episode 7, I think the show would have gone much better if it would have been the entire time with him wearing the helmet, kind of like with Vader. Don't take it off until maybe the second one, or at least the last one.
But the thing is, when Vader took off the helmet, we didn't have the internet, so nobody really knew.
Then he looked like a Humpty Dumpty.
Who even played Vader? Who was going to be under the mask?
Right.
We didn't have until we saw the movie and we saw the ending credits. Now we knew who was going to be under the mask when they signed him.
Right.
Because if you go to place like Internet Movie Database, they get the list of the actors.
Exactly.
Yeah. When I first saw this, in the scene where Kylo Ren takes off his mask, and I saw the movie 4 times in theaters. Every single time I saw it, there's always someone in the audience that groaned. Because I guess they were expecting something a little bit more intimidating looking.
Or something, just an actor taking a helmet off. It would have been nice if his face was scarred or something that you wouldn't really recognize him.
And we see this guy with this huge nose and weird hair.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't as intimidating or as,
Yeah, once he took the helmet off.
Kind of ruined the illusion.
Yeah, I really kind of the character dipped for me at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why they did it. They wanted to add the human element, saying it's here's this powerful guy. Oh wait, he's just a human. It's like that.
And another thing, he is just a kid. That's the other thing. It's like, oh gosh, he's just.
Right. I understand why they did it. Just the execution of it.
In some ways, you kind of get that feeling now, like they did in Spider-Man 2 when he took off his mask and he stopped the train. Oh, spoiler about Spider-Man 2, by the way. And the people save him and they bring him into the train. They look at him and he goes, "Oh wow, Spider-Man is just a kid," because he was really young looking and everything.
Yeah, that wasn't a good scene.
But this all leads up really to number 1, and this is really all the past questions. In many ways, attribute to this one question, which is, will Rey go dark side?
Nope.
And, Bucky and Joe are against me on this one. I don't know why. I know I'm pretty right about this. But let's look at the evidence.
How is that a face of evil? There's no way that face can be evil.
She turns to the dark side. People said that about Anakin in episode 1. They're like, oh, the boy was so sweet. He couldn't possibly be evil. Well, he grows up, he be bad. But no, let's look at the evidence. Okay, first let's talk about Rey herself. Rey has been abandoned. She grew up alone as a scavenger, though somehow learned to be a pilot. She can use the Force without any training whatsoever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of anger and animosity, I'm sure, with her. Not to mention...
I wouldn't say anger. I think there's confusion. Because, she was most emotional in this movie during the scene where she got all the visions and flashbacks.
Right. Rey, for the most part, has always been a person very controlled, right? She's a very strong fighter. So with her Force talents, she is very, very impressive. Now let's flip the coin and let's look at Emperor Snoke and the fact that Emperor Snoke has to deal with Kylo Ren, a guy who had impressive Force powers when we first met him, got his butt kicked by a girl who has no Jedi training whatsoever, and at the same time...
However, Kylo is very emotional, too.
Kylo can be very emotional. So, think about this. Episode 7 and 9, and this is just my theory, but couldn't it be about how Snoke plans to kill Kylo Ren by having Rey kill him, having Rey turn to the dark side, and having Rey be his new apprentice? Is that a possibility?
I don't see that happening.
It's always a possibility. Like
I said, I don't think Rey's going to go dark side just they've planted too many seeds to show that she's already a good person. She cares for a BB-8 droid that she's never met before. She could have sold him.
Right, there was that time.
All those credits,
right.
And she chose, instead of having, eating like a king for however many days, she chose the life of a droid.
Right.
Again, that could be the Force guiding her. That's the one thing about Star Wars. You got to look at it from a different point of view of just a standard movie, because there's the Force plays a huge role in it, but it's something that you can't see. So sometimes people will do things, and you're like, why did that person do that? And it's pretty much just sums up to that's what the Force willed.
Right.
Well, the question is, was it the Force that made her choose the droid over the food, or was it just her the honor of the character?
See, yeah, that's
or
the thing.
She looked at BB-8 and BB-8 rolled his eyes, I guess. BB-8 did give her, that look that said, "Are you gonna sell me?" Type of thing.
BB-8 droid. He gave Finn a thumbs up during that one scene.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, it's very hard to tell the future because pretty much. If you really read the books, and I know they're no longer canon and everything, I cannot imagine a single Star Wars Jedi who didn't at least go dark side at least once. Luke went to the dark side. I think Leia even went dark side once for a while.
I think what they may do is they may do what they did with Return of the Jedi. They may make it look like Rey's going dark side, but she probably has an underhanded plan or something in order to infiltrate Snoke, who could actually end up being Darth Vader, like a reincarnated... I've read one theory online that suggests that Snoke is essentially Darth Vader, because in the one of the episodes 4, 5, or 6, they mentioned that, or maybe it may have been the prequels, that the Force can actually bring the dead back to life, or the dark side can actually bring.
Well, that was episode 3. It could save people from dying.
Right. Or I thought they said something about bringing back to life, but there's that aspect. The fact that Snoke has a scar on his head exactly where Darth Vader does.
Right.
Could imply that, if anything, Snoke may be a reincarnation
of Vader.
Which is a possibility. Because just based on that evidence that I've seen, I find that to be pretty convincing.
Right. That does bring us to our bonus round, and it brings us to an interesting question. This is not really a question about the movies. It's more of a question about the audience and your reaction. We really have only one or two choices. We either have Snoke and Rey's parents, separate people, I'm sure. They're not, but anyway, we have this possibility that they could be someone we already know, or they could be brand new characters. And the real question is how would you feel if it turned out that Snoke and or Rey's parents were brand new characters, just characters they created just for the movies. They don't have to be.
Well, like I said, Snoke. I prefer him to be a new character.
Brand new character.
Only because, to me, having him be Darth Vader would be very predictable.
And kind of cliche is that it's like we just can't seem to let go of the Vader saga, you know?
Right.
Joe, what's your opinion? Would you want them to be new characters or old characters?
New characters. Give them some ties in with maybe some older characters or something. I'm still, my jury's out on Snoke, just because we don't know. Because remember, Kylo Ren. Here's the deal: you're talking about Rey going to the dark side, killing Kylo Ren, becoming Snoke's apprentice, but that's the rule of the Sith. Is Snoke a member of the Sith? Because Kylo Ren is not a Sith. He's trained in the dark side of the Force, not necessarily the dark side of the Force even. Just he's what is it, like a Knight of Ren or something from that cult? It's like a cult. So it's technically, people are confusing. They think red lightsaber automatically equals Darth Vader and Palpatine, which it doesn't. There's so many more layers.
And so I will give just one more insight about Rey's parents, though.
Yes.
The way that they set it up in the movie, it almost seems as if that they wrote it as a mystery, as if, that we're supposed to guess it's someone who we're supposed to know.
Not to mention the fact that they kind of lean too heavily to the fact that it's Luke Skywalker without actually saying that.
Some people were suggesting Han Solo and Leia.
Leia again?
Some people have suggested that either. So, regardless of who it is, I think they're hinting at the fact that it's someone we know.
Right.
So to have them be new characters, to me, would be like a basically slap in the face for the audience.
Right. Now, here's another question that I just realized. It's something that I've been wondering when it comes to Rey. So many people keep wondering who were Rey's parents, but the other side of the coin is who was Rey left with? You don't leave a child that age all by herself in the middle of this desert, okay? You leave her with a responsible adult as she grows up and everything.
Who says?
What do you mean who said? Did you see her? She was probably just a baby, just barely able to walk. She'd be dead in that desert. Somebody had to take care of her.
Well, if you drop her off in the city, someone...
that's why you give her a guardian. Regardless of where you drop her off, her age would suggest that you drop her off with somebody responsible. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people are saying that at one point where Rey, I think, is eating a meal or something, or no, she's going through her stuff that she salvaged. There's an old lady close to her.
Right, I got the impression that it was her grandmother or, some...
She never really... She didn't even speak.
Some guardian of some... Yeah. I guess that was her guardian.
That's what a lot of people are saying. I don't really go with that theory right now. I actually go with the theory that whatever guardian she was left with actually died in that environment.
That's possible, too.
Remember,
this is just the beginning of a story.
Yeah.
They're going to add parts throughout the whole entire thing, and then we'll get a complete story at the end of the third one.
But that does bring up another major question. One question that Bucky had. J.J. Abrams addressed this. I didn't read the full thing out, though. What was your question, Bucky, about R2-D2?
That throughout the movie, he's like in low power. He doesn't do anything until like very end of the movie, where he quotes the key piece of evidence that could have saved us an hour into the movie. But the question is, why does he automatically start up? Why is he down? Because it seems that if he's down, he shows emotion, and he's a droid. Droids don't really show emotion. He was powered off for the longest time, and now we're supposed to. The only thing I know, and just so you know, this is one of the reasons why you should also read the book. The book Force Awakens Star Wars Force Awakens, because the book answers a lot of questions, and it goes into more details, especially about the order that Kylo Ren belongs to. But that said, the only thing I know about R2-D2 is that R2-D2 was put into like sleep mode, so he wasn't turned off. He was put in sleep mode for the longest time, waiting for a sign from Master Luke to come back and to tell everybody where he was so that they could come get him, or something like that. I'm assuming when Luke left R2-D2 behind that he had finished his search, but he didn't want anybody else to find it, because obviously if you keep jumping from planet to planet to planet, people are going to lose you. But if you know you're going to that last spot,
and you don't want anyone to find you, well, you delete the archives. Oh gosh, is that an episode 1 or 2 reference there?
Oh, delete the archives.
Delete the archives. Remove the planet.
Lost the planet he had.
Yes.
How embarrassing.
So, but then he puts the key with R2-D2 and another part of it with BB-8, and so that people would eventually come and find him when the time was right.
But the question is that a lot of characters know that R2-D2 is connected to Luke, so shouldn't they have checked R2-D2 first?
I think he was asleep. I mean, they could check him all they want. All they got was,
wake him up.
Imagine it like this: you take the PS4 we've got right there and see what you can make of it when it's unplugged from its power source. But yeah, why did they try to wake? Because isn't that what happened? BB-8 ran into him, right? And that's what woke him up.
Just bumped him.
Yeah, and we saw C-3PO do that a whole bunch of times. Just whack him on the head and be like, "Hey, wake up!" But it played out the way they played out. Ultimately, to be completely honest, one of the real reasons they did it this way is because they wanted to introduce the characters one at a time, or maybe 2 at a time. That's why Han appeared with Chewbacca. That's one of the reasons why Princess Leia appeared with C-3PO with his red arm.
Yeah, I didn't get the red arm.
See, that's the one question I have.
What's that?
The red arm.
Okay, all we know about it is that it's a tribute to a robot who sacrificed himself for C-3PO. That's the only thing we know about.
It's something we're going to get in the next movie, hopefully.
Hopefully. They might just decide to discard that question altogether. But how would you feel about this? Some of the mysteries that they brought up, and they brought up a lot of mysteries, more than what we're saying now. What if they decide never to come back to those things? What if they decided, well, it's in the book, that's good enough? Or what if they decide, it was kind of stupid anyway, we're just going to forget the whole thing? Now, I don't think it's going to be a question of, who is Snoke or who were right parents, but it could be one of the questions we deliver here. What if for Finn's injury, it's nothing? Like Bucky one time told me, it's just a scratch,
It just instantly cauterized.
Yeah.
It's like nothing.
And they were able to just patch him up good as new before you know it. With that said, any other questions?
I mean, the only one I have, and it's not really I'm not even sure how to describe it, is that when Rey was eating at the side of an Imperial Walker, the one in the desert, the Imperial Walker seemed a lot smaller than they appeared to be in Empire Strikes Back. So was that like a scaled down model, or was it just...
Good question. Because I think I remember that now that you mention it, because it would seem like they were the size of aircraft carriers, weren't they?
They were
huge. And yet she leans against it, and when she's lying down, doesn't her head just barely come below it?
That's what I'm saying, is that...
The whole thing should have just covered her.
Something was not to scale. It just seemed... disproportioned from what it should have been.
But there are chicken walkers, which are smaller, 2-legged.
But it wasn't a chicken walker. It was an Imperial Walker.
Imperial Walker.
Maybe this was a chicken walker with 4 legs.
So or maybe they're trying to do more drone technology where they have a miniaturized version.
Maybe it's a mistake, like when they CGI'd Jabba the Hutt in Episode 1.
Oh, gosh.
Remember how he seemed smaller than he should have been?
Yes.
Well, I mean, he wasn't quite the crime lord at that point. After... 20 years of eating, he got bigger.
Yeah, bigger and everything.
Yeah. Okay, I can understand a character getting bigger, but why in the hell did a Imperial Walker get smaller? Made of metal.
Well, easier to transport, I mean...
Maybe
what was the physical reason?
Things work differently in the Star Wars universe. Hot actually contracts, so in the desert,
there
it got smaller.
Okay, now we're just going to make up all sorts of...
all right.
So,
I don't know, I'm lost on that
But
one.
that said, Joe, do you have any questions about Episode 7 that you felt weren't addressed properly?
Not really, because they went so far out of the actual what I knew of Star Wars, or what I know of the Legends storyline. So, I mean, this is all, pretty new.
Yeah.
To me, this is not the Star Wars universe I knew, so...
I've said it before, and I said it again. I respect that they used Episode 4 as a springboard for Episode 7, but I'm really hoping Episode 8 will just now take us in brand new directions, fresh ideas, fresh concepts. Yeah. But believe me, if they start Episode 8 in a snow battle, I'm going to be groaning most of the time. But I just thought of another question just now. What do you think the the forces are like now on each side, because on the one side we saw the First Order destroy all these planets with all these people, and I'm sure there were troops and all that on there, but at the same time we destroyed their one planet, their little Star Killer base, which had a majority of their troops on it too. So are we equal now in terms of fighting forces? Do they have more than we do? Do we have more than they do? What's the question about who's going to be, who came out the strongest from Episode 7? After all of these massive explosions, who really came out? Because, when they were blowing up Star Killer Base, obviously they had a lot of time to get away. Because not only could, and what was the guy's name, the second hand of Kylo Ren?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay. Well, anyway, not only did he have time when it started to blow up, everything started to fall apart, he had time to make a phone call. He had time to find Kylo Ren, pick up Kylo Ren, bring him in, and take off, and get away from the explosion in time before everybody died. So, I would suspect a lot of guys got out of there in time. A lot of the bad guys got out of there in time. But that said, how do you think that's going to affect their relationship between those two? Kylo Ren's got their short fuse. It was clear they didn't like each other.
But the life was saved. So now I'm expecting a Brokeback Mountain scene in part 2 where it's like, I ain't quitting you.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be more smug. The guy's going to be like, yes, I had to save your life in case you remembered, oh, powerful Sith Lord.
Yeah, who knows what to expect, It's like...
The future is very hard, but, you got to respect a movie like this. A movie like Star Wars Episode 7 that could bring up a lot of questions and yet keep you interested and keep you entertained. I think a lot of people really wish their movies could be received like this, so that there would be a sequel. I mean, we've seen a lot of movies where some of us liked it, some of us didn't, but we were all hoping for that sequel, and the sequel never came.
Right, I think if I remember correctly, I ended up giving The Force Awakens a B+. Because there were things obviously there were a lot of elements taken from Episode 4.
Yes.
But again, it came down to which is better, the first story or the best story.
Right.
And so, because I think it was a better written story, with the exception of 2 characters, it actually, I'm trying to see what happens next. I'm interested. I'm invested now.
And that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? So, when it comes down to it, guys, we hope we've answered some of your questions. If you have any questions about The Force Awakens that were not addressed in here, please put them in the comment section below. Let us know.
And for those of you listening, he actually pointed down when he said put them in the comment section below.
That way they know where it is! I'm showing them! Alright, guys, that's it for us for today. We will see you at the theaters.
Take it easy.
Be seeing you.